So there's a hit piece. I haven't watched it yet, except for like the first 2 minutes.
Hi, I'm Cam. I used to spit, now I make flicks. The first two parts of this series were about the many suspicious degrees of Rashad Richey, the supposedly progressive host of Indisputable. Since Richey announced an impending lawsuit in his most recent response video, while looking like he was about to cry.
But I see now that a part two and other people are grabbing the commentary. Well, it has to be done.
I figured making another one about him alone would be overkill. This one's about the network itself, specifically their leaders, Cenk Uygur, that's how the founder of TYT, Cenk Uygur pronounces his name, by the way, and the self-labeled politically homeless Anna Kasparian. Though they've both done a lot of great work in the media for decades, and there's no way I can erase thousands of videos pushing progressive messaging and causes, many people on the left see them as deeply compromised, in more ways than one. I'm also not letting their COO and former CEO, Jack Gerard, off the hook either. You don't get to fade to black just because you ain't a celebrity. Assuming all of y'all have heard of this YouTube OG news organization would be a mistake. So let's run that down real quick. The Young Turks is an American progressive news network founded by Cenk, Ben Mankiewicz, and Dave Kohler in 2002. They actually launched on Sirius satellite radio in the early days, then hopped on YouTube and Twitch when those platforms rolled out. Anna worked her way into a partner position fairly early on, and even took over editorial control after Cenk became a politician. TYT is co-hosted by Cenk and Anna on the flagship broadcast, with a gang of shows targeting different left-leaning demographics. A variety of hosts anchor those shows, including our best friend, Rashad. I hear everybody loves John Iadarola and The Damage Report.
There is not a pure soul at the network than John, I'll be honest.
I love to hear it. I've heard great things about sports and politics commentator J.R. Jackson, OG news anchor David Schuster, and I've heard of Nina Turner through the grapevine. Everybody else doesn't ring a bell, but they got a lot of shows, bruh. At any given time of day, one of their shows is live, which seems like it was the whole goal of building so many spinoffs in the first place. I interviewed Dan Evans, aka Dan from the Internet, a former producer and guest host for the Young Turks, and collaborated with their former editor, writer, and co-host, Hank Thompson.
I'm gonna turn this up.
Who's been eyeballs deep in his own expose, covering the scandal around TYT's union-busting saga, called Tell the Truth, Cenk. I'll be including snippets of that, but over an hour of it is available on YouTube right now, and they're previews, but incredibly solid. Both of them reached out to me when they heard I was covering this, laid out some pretty strong evidence in Hank's case.
Your idea hit piece? Yep. By someone who's black, which means it's extra credible, okay, in the eyes of a progressive audience. Of course, I, being the unbiased, non-racist streamer, okay, is covering this.
And some important background info in Dan's case. I also reached out to former TYT contributor Jeff Wiggins from We Gon' Be Alright, who linked me to the videos made by other former contributors discussing why they left, or, in the case of Francesca, got banned by TYT. You'll see clips from them throughout this piece as well. I'll be clear right now that I'm not attacking anyone. My constructive criticism has nothing to do with the network's contributors, producers, writers, or on-air talent beyond Cenk, Anna, and Richey. After reviewing all the evidence, my conclusion is that despite all the measurable good this network has done for progressive causes, representing one of the strongest checks to Republican media dominance over the past 20 years, their corporation is losing favor with their left-leaning fan base for very clear corporation-related reasons. The core values listed on the Young Turks website are not consistently supported by the actions and words of their leadership, and the sum total of these actions is much more reminiscent
Hoping this guy's a liberal? He might be a lefty. He might legitimately be a lefty, dude.
Of naked capitalism than it is progressive. For the purposes of this video, here's the definition of progressive straight from the US State Department. Progressives are, quote, interested in furthering social and political reform, curbing political corruption caused by political machines, and limiting the political influence of large corporations. Rashad ain't off the hook either. We'll cover his past affiliation with conservative figures and wild statements about progressives in one of his dissertations, but I gotta light up his employers first for me to make this point effectively. Let's pay the bills, then get to it. Shout out to my longtime sponsor, Aura, for making these investigations possible. I'll keep it quick.
You know what's the number one enemy of leftists? Other lefties.
So this time when I logged in, Aura hit me with an update on one of the data brokers they checked out for me. This is happening nonstop while I'm eating, sleeping, making these videos. You get it. What's different about this factual?
Say my name, you acting kinda shady.
This is a small part of this story, but we can't skip it. The name The Young Turks is a popularized term among Turkish people that refers to a group of anti-establishment forces working to establish a constitutional government instead of a monarchy in the Ottoman Empire. Before you turn the video off, this whole thing won't be a history lesson. That's just what it means. It's become a more general reference to young rebels fighting the power, like Public Enemy. Back in 1991, when I was saying my first English words, Cenk Uygur, a Turkish East Brunswick, New Jersey native, was a senior management major at UPenn, writing for their newspaper, the Daily Pennsylvanian. He called his column, How You Like Me Now, Baby, which screams preppy.
Oh, is that what you looked like back then?
The Daily Pennsylvanian.
Oh, gross.
He called his column
like calling the TYT. I like calling TYT the Cenk Piker crime family because I don't think there's any one single organization from the left that has done more damage to politics than the Young Turks. I think almost everyone that came out of that organization ended up being one of the hardest grifters, either to the right or to the left, right? Dave Rubin, I don't know. You can just list on and on. That one person, who is that one leftist, like, fucking motherfucker? I don't know. There's just so many people who came out of the Young Turks who just ended up becoming Jimmy Dore, who became like the most reprehensible grifters, the biggest infiltrators of politics ever. It is a network driven by greed and treason. Yeah, Emma Vigeland, Hassan, yeah.
How You Like Me Now, Baby, which screams preppy Gen X, but I'll let that one go. And in this article called Historical Fact or Falsehood, he uses 1,200 words to convince readers that the Armenian genocide did not happen. I've put the whole thing in the description in case y'all want to read it. He was really going in, talking about what 69 American professors wrote to Congress.
What? Cenk argued this? Directly?
100 words to convince readers that the Armenian genocide did not happen.
Yo, hold on. This leftist might be cooking. Actually.
I've put the whole thing in the description in case y'all want to read it. He was really going in, talking about what 69 American professors wrote to Congress. Nice. Gassing up those professors' qualifications ad nauseum.
Shut up, nerd.
To make sure we believe him, like another person we know, and even leaning on the words of a rear admiral working for the U.S. government who called the genocide misinformation. But
you didn't know that? No. That's old news on Cenk. He changed his mind on this. If he changed his mind, he would change the name.
What happened is that the Ottoman Empire's officials were shook at the prospect of Armenians joining the Russian war effort. So they wiped 1.5 million of them out via executions and forced marches. And yes, forced marches are a form of genocide. Remember the Trail of Tears? That was an American genocide committed against Native Americans, as an example. Fast forward to 20.
Thought that was ethnic cleansing, but whatever, no big deal.
25. And Cenk is on the Lex Friedman podcast discussing what made him take that stance originally and how he came to disavow that article and admit that the Armenian genocide did actually happen.
Growing up in any tribe, whether it's a religious tribe or an ethnic tribe, you're going to get indoctrinated into that tribe's way of thinking. I'm in college and I read about a battle that the Ottoman Empire lost. And I'm like, that can't be right. The Turks have only lost one war, World War I, right? And I was like, oh my God, I'm an idiot. I got taught that in 3rd grade in Turkey. Of course that's not true. That's ridiculously untrue, right? I read the Turkish version, right? And the Turkish version has all of this evidence, right? So it's real in that it exists. And that one was so indoctrinated that it was tough to let go. And so Anna and I disagree on things from time to time. And we've been co-hosting now
If Anna is Armenian, that makes it extra wild. We have a traitor and we have a perpetrator. Wait, that's perfect. We have a traitor and we have a perpetrator.
At Young Turks for
You didn't know she was Armenian? No, I didn't. The Lord must run deep.
18 years and co-hosting for, almost 18. And so
I understand is that the Armenian community hates her. As a Korean Armenian myself, I also hate her.
She's Armenian. It just dawned on me like, no, this too was obviously propaganda. So at that point, once you realize that, it becomes easier. That's why I'm trying to unplug people from the matrix.
Okay, bet. He changed his mind when he realized he was wrong. Here's the problem with that, though. He still refuses to change the name. Anna defended it too in a now deleted tweet, even though she's Armenian. Quote, "We've explained the name a billion times. You know what it means, and you know the type of coverage we do. To perpetuate the same lies over and over again, which
are either of these? Hell no.
Of course, directs harassment and disinformation towards me, is an odd move, especially right now." End quote. Given what we know about this historical event, it's like calling your progressive news organization the Hitler Youth. Anna knows this and defended it for one reason. She didn't like how the public was making her feel about it. Cenk did the same thing for the same reason. Of course, harassment isn't okay in any circumstances, but public pressure is another thing entirely. As a person who's worked at marketing agencies for most of my adult life.
Wait, you're Taiwanese? Oh no? What's Taiwanese? You mean China? Also, I'm from the mainland, thank you.
It seems as if this pretty cut and dry Washington Redskins-ass situation has a very obvious solution, but it would be a pain for them logistically. Any organization that publishes media on the scale that they do, which is thousands of videos a year, would need to dedicate a whole month of some unpaid intern's time to make sure any name change is reflected as widely as possible and to make sure their SEO and marketing campaigns are flipped to match. By refusing to change the name and complaining about the public pointing out this
China? You mean West Taiwan? You mean Taiwan? You mean the Hawaii of China?
Obvious conflict with their progressive ideals. Cenk and Anna are putting their comfort above doing the right thing. This is what's called a theme. How was the pay with TYT?
No one will say it's great. I will say Hassan has previously talked about being underpaid at TYT, and I'll even contest to that because
Hassan should never be used as a frame of reference for how much someone should be paid. That guy is a taker. Okay, that guy is not a giver. Bro was earning millions, and he was giving his editor a computer to seize the means of production as payment instead of a paycheck. Now he pays a paycheck, but I don't think Hassan should be used as the metric here, okay? That's cringe.
Funny enough, I was paid more than him.
Wow.
So,
that says a lot by itself.
Oh.
Yeah.
Bo baby, I wasn't
Really?
like family with Jenk or anything, but because I was such a young
Okay, I want the numbers. Okay, I want the numbers. I'm pretty open about my numbers, okay? I'm open about the amount of money I'm earning right now. So when people donate money, they know how much it means to me, okay? When they do actually donate money. And I reveal my past incomes too. So you guys know that I came from a software engineering background, okay? I do believe he was underpaid at TYT. It's easiest to underpay family. That makes sense. Chink always had pretty shady shit, okay, in regards to business.
kid, and because I'd shown such interest at a young age, Jenk sort of protected me in a lot of different ways.
Your uncle was letting everybody steal your sales deals at too.
That's
his
true.
uncle would like let him massage a sales deal to the last thing, then someone would swoop in and close it and take the commission.
Objectively, Hassan was like a host. He would leave, especially near the end of his time at TYT. He would leave and start doing his Twitch streams. He would basically come in, do the script we worked on, leave, and then...
Why does Anna look possessed? It's hard to see any iris in her eyes. It all looks black. That's literally my eyes. You realize that, right? Like, if I'm not wearing contacts right now, I know, sorry for all the people who thought they were actually my eyes. My eyes are like a deep, dark void, okay? Foods pays her editor very well too, FYI. Thank you. I appreciate that. Good thing, but that's something I want to hammer in to my editor so they never want more, okay?
That was it. I'd be there producing 2 or 3 shows, so like, I better have been paid more. But, that's all to say that it was under market rate for probably the job I was doing, but in the world of digital media, it wasn't obscene.
Why does Anna look Chinese? MVTT, why are you blind?
There are other people who were definitely getting paid under market rate, and I think there were some, before the union efforts, I remember hearing some mutterings over some people who were working who eventually started forming the union. So like editors, studio technicians.
Aren't most people's eyes brown, therefore at a distance people's look like giant black orbs? Correct. My eyes are actually a very, very dark brown, but you can never tell.
Anyone who would be covered under IATSE, they were talking about being like legally underpaid the like California minimum wage for a salaried employee. So I was aware that those kind of things were happening even before 2020.
I had this IP, this intellectual property of the show that I like built out of the for free that I did because I wanted to do it on the side. There's something I wanted, and I knew they were not gonna originally they were not.
Green eyes here? And you're brown, right? Oh, kind of interesting.
Not gonna let me do it unless I do it for free, which is kind of lame.
This is your uncle's company.
Yeah, it's my uncle's company. It got very popular, and instead of giving me additional funds to be like, here, let's build out the show more, let's give you a writer, because I did this in the supply closet basically. I put a green screen up there and I started filming myself. They were like, oh yeah, we're gonna take this IP and we're gonna give it to all the other hosts so we can make more of the same type of videos without spending any extra money. And that's when I was like, damn, I have no ownership over this. My uncle was like, oh, this is an opportunity for me to hire someone and skirt some serious labor regulation.
Why is a network that proclaims itself to be the home of progressives, a main supporter of Bernie Sanders and all these other different people, trying to start doing some union busting tactics that are straight out of the book?
I heard that TYT was doing some union busting, but I just don't know about the details. Okay, I'm hoping that they would dive into it further on what exactly they did. But
in 2020, Cenk tried to prevent his staff from unionizing, using every union busting tactic in the playbook. This isn't something a progressive does, and it also isn't breaking news. The whole saga has played out across the media pretty far and wide for years now. The union went public on February 12th, 2020, catching TYT leadership by surprise, and I'll let Hank take it from here.
I also want to shout out Hank Thompson.
Hi, I'm Hank. I worked at TYT as well as for the Jimmy Dore Show in various iterations over the years. I was a long-time paying member before I began working for the company in 2013. As a video editor and lizard massager, I was on the ground floor of this organizing drive.
This Twitter page pops up out of nowhere, right? And it's TYT Union.
They'd used card check, an election process in which 50%, let help, Bernie.
If 50% of workers in a bargaining unit plus one sign a card saying they want to join a union, they will have a union.
End of discussion.
End of discussion.
End of discussion.
Fine. End of relationship.
After 9 days of silence, the company formally rejected.
Cat's RK, thank you so much for the $1.49. It's a cat sticker. Cute. I appreciate that.
Voluntary recognition. saying they were prepared to voluntarily recognize the union, but only after a second election was conducted on terms more favorable to the company. While they wanted people to believe they were protecting the democratic will of the workers, it was in fact, as labor journalist Sarah Jones pointed out, classic union busting. Their statement was, put another way, total bullshit. What followed was a period of union busting that...
How does union busting even work? How does union busting even work? Does anybody know? Like, people keep on saying union busting. How does union busting work? Union busting works by employers using a range of tactics, often with specialized consultants, to discourage or prevent workers from forming or joining a labor union, employing strategies like anti-union captive audience meetings, spreading misinformation, delaying union votes, threatening job losses, offering last-minute incentives like bonuses or raises, and sometimes illegally firing or retaliating against pro-union workers to sow fear, division, and confusion. Okay, so it's a variety of tactics. It's not like one specific set of action that will direct or something. Okay.
Seemed right out of the union busting playbook. Every single tactic was a tried and true technique for disrupting solidarity, save one: publicly smearing the workers' integrity, intelligence, and motivations by accusing them of being in a conspiracy with Cenk Uyghur's political opponent.
Seriously, go watch that. I've linked it on screen and in the description. We're going to take a closer look at some of the things and
pretty much you're fired if you start a union. Is union busting, you can be replaced. I would imagine, like, one of the methods I heard before was that you want to find traitors among the people who are willing to toe the line or like cross over the line, right? Because one of the things behind strikes is you shouldn't be working, right? You shouldn't be being a greedy fuck, right? And start working and leaving the rest of your brothers in alone, right? But trying to look for traitors is definitely a way, I think.
Said that Hank put on screen, then moved to Cenk's statements. Hank and Cenk are different people, by the way. Please pay attention. In these tweets, Anna's going ham on IATSE, which stands for the International Alliance of Theatrical Stage Employees. It's a union representing entertainment workers, like the ones at TYT. Criticizing a union for endorsing someone who seems to not be very progressive is fair game, right? But Anna wasn't doing this out of the goodness of her heart. She was indirectly lashing out at her own coworkers.
While I'm personally supportive of unions, that's not a good start. This feels like it's done in bad faith. She finishes by calling the situation extremely suspicious.
Why would you criticize the decisions of a union your coworkers are deciding to join, as if that has anything to do with whether they deserve representation or not? You have representation.
As a worker, Anna's had personal experience with how scary asking for a raise can be.
I don't like freaking asking for raises or negotiating. That's why I have an agent.
She is a grifter. Uh-oh.
My agent negotiates that stuff for me because I can't do it, right? So
it's an uncomfortable process for everyone.
She's right. It is the worst. Since very few have a private union, an agent, a company-wide union would elevate everyone out of the intimidating subjugation Anna's agent helps her avoid.
Right, that's called having your own personal union. As Hank went on to point out, you're doing this to defend your boss. Now, what did Cenk say about it?
Our relationship got off to a bumpy start in the beginning.
As for Cenk, he did a lot more than just speak on the air. And this conflict was a lot more than just a bumpy start. He and TYT leadership spoke with the company's bankroll. I rarely get to say this, but Hank did some of this investigative work for me already.
The other tactics, all documented in these 4 articles, none of which the company has refuted, might seem so familiar because, as NLRB filings would later reveal, the Young Turks hired 2 anti-worker management-side law and consultancy firms.
Uh-oh.
Since the home of progressives is largely member-funded, it stands to reason that the audience deserves to know how much they spent on union busting, if any. How much member money did TYT send to these anti-worker law firms?
For those listening in the car or while doing dishes, he just pulled up the receipts showing that TYT's 2 hired firms.
Wait, is he just here to go over someone else's video of TYT? I might as well watch the original then. What the fuck? Why are you like summarizing what? Okay, maybe he'll go over something new.
Specialize in union busting. Here's a notice TYT had to post in their office for 60 days after violating Section 7 of the agreement with the National Labor Relations Board. Remember how TYT leadership said they voluntarily agreed with the agreement and were prepared to accept union.
I thought we knew this about TYT even before Anna Cenk went full mad. Not me. I think that people have definitely documented TYT's grifts throughout time, and but I've always been sheltered from this stuff, to be honest.
Unionization, all that language is a front. If they wanted to agree to that first majority vote, also referred to as card check, they could have. It was a lie. There's a lot more to this story, but Hank's got y'all covered for that. We got to move on to the next reason I call TYT the throne of fake progressives: blatant transphobia. But first, I came across this
Blatant transphobia. Oh no. Oh no. Okay, we'll see.
NGO report page in my research, and they were talking about TYT being pro-Israel while providing zero proof of it.
Recently, a media outlet did a hit job on us, and because we were criticizing Israel and we support others who criticize Israel, they said, well, that's it, you're anti-Semitic. In fact, Jew haters. Okay. Now, my proposition is that they're liars, and
is this fair use? Yeah, it is fair use. If you're summarizing another person's video, I think that's fine, right?
they never clarified to people that we actually speak out against anti-Semitism all the time, and we say do not conflate Jews and Israel. That is a government, and our Jewish American brothers and sisters are one of us.
Do not blame the entire Jewish population for the war crimes that are committed by the Israeli government, because I'm not an idiot. I can tell the difference between the two, and I judge people as individuals, not as an entire group. I don't believe in blood guilt.
As we've said on the Young Turks now literally thousands of times, it is not about Jews. If you conflate the two, that is going to cause not just terrible anti-Semitism, but it's irrational and it's wrong.
Oh shit. Is he actually about to call out TYT's anti-Semitism? I wonder.
Jewish people are not getting their orders from stupid Netanyahu. Will some of them listen to him, like Larry Ellison? Of course, because those are pro-Israel zealots. But that does not represent all Jewish people.
I mean, while this is true, it also depends on who is the one saying it, right? If it's TYT that's saying it, I'm thinking that you're using it as a cover for blatant anti-Semitism. But if it's me saying it, obviously, I have the best interests of Jewish people at heart. All right. I do actually think that you should probably criticize Israel. Okay. But if a leftist is so-called criticizing Israel and you can just replace the word Zionist in every sentence that they mutter with the word Jew, and it would fit perfectly into a anti-Semitic statement. I'm not talking about one sentence or 20 sentences. I mean all sentences. If every sentence fits, again, if the shoe fits, yeah, that's anti-Semitism. Yeah. A lot of leftist conspiracy theories also go about spreading far-right conspiracy theories. That was present during the Nazi times, right? I'm talking about Elders of Zion, right? I'm talking about secret orders and shit. But, yeah.
At all, please do not believe them when they say such outrageous things that drive up anti-Semitism. Israel does not represent all Jewish people. Nobody called my friends, Jewish friends and family, and said, hey, you guys want to buy TikTok to do Israeli propaganda? Hey, would you like to kill more Palestinians? They didn't do that.
Do not conflate the Jewish people with the far-right terrorist regime that's currently governing Israel.
One of the few things that's redeemable for TYT right now are when Cenk and Anna go onto shows like Piers Morgan, and they're some of the only anti-Zionist voices, and they hold pretty strong positions on this. I was moderately amused by Anna Kasparian slapping Bill Maher across his own podcast for his, bad takes.
I don't like Israel as an ally to the United States. I don't. I think Israel is committing war crimes, atrocities, all sorts of disgusting behavior by this
Wait, they're not about to support them, right? Like
Israeli government and its military that should be condemned.
Yeah, I think they're pretty clear on that one, fam.
Dead wrong. Oh, part 3, dead wrong. Uh-oh, like the stream. True, you guys should like the stream. And you should also donate, okay? If I provide to you guys entertainment for the night, if I help you guys get to sleep, if I help you guys do your work, then, that's a service. We live in a service economy. Stimulate the service economy. Open your hearts and open your wallets to me, okay? The Young Turks who denied the Armenian genocide, Cenk did deny it until he walked it back. He said that, oh yeah, it did happen, but it was just not. But then it feels kind of weird because why would you still name yourself the Young Turks then? This makes no sense.
Okay, the transphobia.
She's pretty right about Israel being governed by far-right conservative scum. I wish they said that more, though, rather than lambasting all Israel without that important context. No, I mean, the way that they define Zionism is anybody who lives in Israel is a Zionist. That's the way that they define things, is that as long as you live in Israel, even if you're a Palestinian who's living in Israel, they view you as oh my God, you're currently undergoing genocide or whatever, right? But it's dude, the Palestinian population could vote. I don't know what to tell you. They can vote.
I've been on the internet for a long time, and religious Black people usually get really mad about me being an ally. So we got to put some definitions on screen as we enter the transphobia section. The UK.
Oh, okay. He didn't end up calling out the anti-Semitism that the Young Turks has. Maybe later, but again, I think that this video creator is a lefty, so it kind of makes sense that they would also be pro-Pally.
Organization Transaxual sums it up well.
Keep in mind, Anna Kasparian is anti-Ukraine and agrees with Tucker Carlson's opinions about Ukraine. While I'm not surprised about that now, did she have that opinion at the time when the Ukraine war just started? Because right now she's just a fucking right-winger, right? Like now she's a right-winger. Now her and Cenk feels like right-wingers to me.
Quote, the core value underlying all transphobia is a rejection of trans identity and a refusal to acknowledge that it could possibly be real or valid. This
excuse me? Appeal to authority? You're citing the dictionary, but we all know that definition doesn't only come from the dictionary. It also comes from how we use... I'm joking. Okay, stop. Actually?
Includes, but is not limited to, attempting to remove trans people's rights, misrepresenting trans people, abuse, systematically excluding trans people from discussions about issues that directly affect them, and other forms of discrimination. What did TYT do or say to qualify as trans?
Didn't Anna just debate just political things or lips of TikTok, whatever she is called? Yeah.
Phobic. This is where I bring in Bonnie, a former contributor for the network. They made this video about why they left.
Oh, but that person was hella cringe though, right? Like the person who left TYT and then made a hit piece video on TYT. I mean, she was being cringe. Okay, we'll see. From what I remember, it was a cringe video, but maybe I'm misremembering.
We're mostly going to be focusing on their transphobia, which they have been escalating rapidly, which I guess is something that everybody really predicted would happen starting, I think about 4 months ago, when Anna Kasparian put out a tweet complaining about the use of the term birthing person, which is really, really funny because she kept on talking about how, like, it erases women, and it minimizes womanhood down to just body parts, except for it literally doesn't. Everybody very immediately points.
I strongly disagree with this one. I think that birthing person 100% sounds like a very blatant, like, misogynist, sexist term used to demean women. If I was a normal person, and I don't care about your definitions, but if I ever heard birthing person, and if any normie also heard birthing person, they would automatically think like, yeah, that is I mean, Anna has a point there, okay? You can't deny that Anna 100% has a point there, okay? Maybe that was the start of her grift, but she's right there, right?
Out that that's a silly thing to say, that in fact, thinking that the term women
Oh, wait, never mind. I remember now.
And birthing person are completely interchangeable actually does reduce women to body parts.
It was from Dr. Michelle Morrison. It said the urgency of this moment is clear. Mortality rates of birthing people are too high.
It sounds like calling women incubators. Exactly.
And babies born to Black and Puerto Rican mothers in this city are 3 times more likely to die in their first year of life than babies born to non-Hispanic white birthing people.
I'm speculating that she doesn't want to say mothers because mothers is gendered and she's worried about offending birthing people. Really? Come on. For me, it's not even like.
Oh, okay. That doesn't seem like a big deal to me. If like someone is just citing statistics or some shit, that doesn't sound like a big deal to me. Again, it depends on who's talking about it, right? Like who cares? I guess is my point. Like, who cares? I don't know.
Like, oh, I don't want to be inclusive and I don't want to think of, transgender people. It's the phrasing. Like, it just makes you sound like a weird object that like you're a vessel and nothing more. Like birthing people just sounds.
I prefer the term axolotl tank.
Hey, thank you, Slight Dionysus. Yeah.
I prefer the term axolotl tank.
Thank you. Well, like one thing that I kind of think of is like, what if we called all men stock breeders? Really? Are you okay with that? Yeah, I don't know. It just feels weird.
Weird.
All right, let me break this idea down for everyone in my audience who's going to argue about it. Inclusive language.
I'm down. Well, because men don't really get much attention at all. Like any kind of reference, even if negative, to their masculinity, any men is going to appreciate. It's like, oh, you're such a meathead. Wait a second, he called me a meathead. Even though he called me stupid, he's saying I'm muscular. Like, yeah, of course. It's just like, I don't know. I don't know. I think women get so much attention to the point where any term could be demeaning towards them, but men has very few terms that are gendered towards them that is as targeted as misogynist terms. And so then any kind of gender terms that men receive, they will hold it close to their chest. They'll be like, yes, I feel special now.
Language isn't developed to force you to go along with it. I'll give you an example. Cisgender. In my last video, I dropped that term in reference to me. And a few of y'all pulled the same shit Anna pulled in this situation. Righteous anger over being forced to call yourself cisgender. What did I say in response? That nobody asked you to call yourself anything. This language isn't created for no reason to make progressives feel better or shame everybody.
Because men don't get socially dehumanized by gendered language. If anything, men probably feel because men have very little going on in their lives except to seek validation in their masculinity. right? So when their masculinity gets validated, even in a demeaning way, I think they take it positively, not negatively. Yeah. Because it's like, oh, well, I mean, it's an insult, but it's better than nothing. Because I feel ignored in life all the time. Yeah.
Else. Cisgender was first popularized on the internet by a biologist in 1994. You know, a science person. There's competing ideas that it originated as far back as 1914 in German literature, but it ain't new either way. Y'all act like transgender people ran in the room and told you what you're allowed to say. Y'all act like they did something wild, like prevent you from getting medical care or threaten your reproductive rights. To address this specific term, birthing person, it isn't the same as woman. Opponents will just say everyone.
You just call this attention whores? Yes. The reason why women never want to talk to men about subjects that they are passionate about is because the man usually gets the wrong idea and they think that the woman is into them. Meanwhile, women are already conditioned into thinking that, well, if I ever talk to a man about a subject that I'm passionate about, they'll always take it the wrong way and they'll always go after me. And, you know, this is why, like, I don't have any male friends. This is why I don't have any female friends, blah, 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 right? Because, yeah.
With a uterus as a woman and storm out the room. Well, now that you're gone, the rest of us can acknowledge that trans men can also have uteruses or uteri. If a politician or public figure has to choose a term to address legislation or policy,
I do think that people overthink the word cisgender. There's nothing wrong with the word, I guess. I mean, I think words should ultimately serve a purpose. If they don't serve a purpose, then we should change that, right? I don't know.
Towards everyone who's able to give birth.
It's called incels. It's called all men, actually. I think even married men. I think even married men. Okay, they'll get used to their wives at some point, you know, and they'll also think to themselves, wait, what if my wife is the only woman that ever pays attention to me and my mom? I don't know. Men want to be validated for their masculinity in front of other men as well. It's like it's a never-ending, it's an unceasing battle, you know, which is why like getting a girlfriend or a wife will not fix your insecurities. Women do that as well. Yeah, but we're not talking about that. It's not like women don't cause more problems in society. Men cause more problems in society, okay? We can talk about toxic femininity all day long, and I do agree it's a problem, but 99% of rapists are men, okay? And that's just the truth of the matter. I'm sorry, that's a statistic.
What else would they say? You might not like the sound of it, which is fine. It's pretty awkward. I think we can come up with something better personally. I like birth squad. What isn't up for debate is that the term has a real purpose.
Like, while you might not enjoy the technical language, that awkwardness is inevitable in this current climate and necessary because we're trying to like fortify walls.
Isn't 99%? I'm pretty sure it's like 95% or like 90%. Like it's still the vast majority. Like what am I supposed to say? Oh, wow. I guess it's not 99%. I guess it's 90%. Whoops. My bad. Looks like men are angels. Like, what the fuck?
Right now, as trans erasure is widespread right now. Like, there's a barrage of deliberately trans exclusionary language, which is what some of the awkward, stilted terminology is meaning to beat back.
Anna's too smart to not see that, which reinforces my point that she doesn't want to let go of these popular stances. Popular on the right, specifically. She has that in common with Cenk. Y'all have become Karens. Believe it or not, this debate over terminology is the tip of the iceberg. This gets way worse.
Cenk seemed convinced of this idea that I'm living in some sort of bubble. They've even said it on the air, that people fighting for trans rights are all living in some sort of bubble. I was like, no, Cenk, you don't understand. I matched with a random person on Tinder, and the first thing that they started talking to me about is how transphobic TYT has been lately. Because I think
okay. This is not, okay, I remember how stupid this video was now. There are a ton of women because they have a power trip, usually on young kids. What? So yes, we're talking about purely adults, you'd be correct. What other rapists are we talking about here? What the fuck? Like, yeah, on average, the average women are shorter than men type of question, sure. Also, typically on Tinder, you'll get matched with people who you like, right? If you're a tinky, then you're going to be matched with other tinkies. If you're going to be matched with other tinkies, then chances are they hate TYT, right? This is selection bias at its best. If you're like a trans tinky, right? The most cringe kind of trans, by the way. And then you get matched with other trans tinkies, you guys are all gonna agree that TYT sucks, all right? Like, that's just selection bias. I don't know, this is not strong evidence, okay? There's plenty of things that you can criticize TYT for, but it's just that this is not it, yeah.
That they had just kind of figured out who I was. And Cenk was like, no, see, you're living in a bubble. And it's like, yeah, okay, buddy.
Also, yeah, that is a bubble though. Like, just to be very fair, right? That is a bubble. That is a bubble, right? Also, yeah, no, I think trans people online do actually live in a bubble. Actually, like unironically, all they browse is r/tra, and they don't put any effort into transitioning, and all they do is circle jerk about how sad their life is, and they spend all of their time on Discord servers complaining about how bad their life is. But they're not the biggest problem. They're cringe though.
A completely random person I matched with on Tinder is just part of the bubble that I'm magically living in. But really, that kind of gave me the vibe of like, oh, Jenk really thinks that like every trans person is part of some sort of ideology, that we're of like a strict like political viewpoint.
Also, just to be very clear, okay, who the fuck cares about trans people, man? Like, who cares about trans people? Aren't they like 1% of the population or something? I wouldn't know because I'm cis. But they're like 1% of 1% or some shit. Like genuinely trans. Not the fake she theys, okay? Less than 1%? Yeah, like who cares about trans people? I can't believe this became such an issue because of fucktard Nazi Republicans, Jesus.
And that we don't just exist as like a type of person that exists,
So we got Jank generalizing all trans people as living in a bubble, which is somehow both condescending.
I'm literally the only fucking trans person people have ever met in their entire lives, okay? They have not they have not talked to another fucking trans person outside of me. And I would imagine that other trans people who actually touch grass, not me though, I don't touch grass, but other people who touch grass, like for them, the experience is the same, right? They are also going to be the only trans people that the cis people within their proximity would ever like have interacted with.
And transphobic, they're not a hive mind. This ain't sci-fi, bruh. Next, we're back to Anna as she complains about teens being given puberty blockers and gender-affirming care.
I pointed out something that Anna had said on the air, where I was like, hey, Anna said this bit about doctors giving hormone therapy to children.
You only touch bushes, just not the kind of bushes you're thinking of, baby. Sorry.
Because they were afraid of being called transphobic.
So stupid.
And I was very clear. I was like, that's not happening, right? Like, that isn't happening. And Jenk's response was, I don't know. See, I could see it happening, though. And I'm like, no, but you couldn't. Because if that actually did happen, that would be medical malpractice, and it would be like a federal case to just give kids hormone replacement therapy because you didn't want to seem transphobic. That's ridiculous. On its face is ridiculous.
Then there was what happened to Jesse Single.
I can see this point more, actually. I can see this point more. Yeah, I think that puberty blockers are way overblown. And I think that I'm not denying that, there's more research that needs to come out, but at the same time, it's like, again, it's become a culture war issue because it's been pushed by foreign agents and by Republicans who don't care about the country. So yeah, I've seen like a handful of trans people, didn't speak to them because it was public and they were strangers. Biggest exposure has been online. Yeah, because, well, I mean, yeah, of course. Are Adam and Sitch even a thing anymore? They're still a thing. Yeah. Adam is the dumb fuck magatard, and Sitch is the enlightened centrist moderate. Okay, he is smarter than Adam, but fuck both of them, to be honest. Yeah, both of them fucking suck.
Which I found disgusting. I didn't know about that until at some point this year. I would say earlier this year.
With the trans stuff? Jesse's been on the show before. Yeah, he's done great.
Jesse Single is a good faith, I think, critical thinker. I haven't seen anything from Jesse Single that communicates to me that he is a transphobe, that he is a bad person. He did straight news reporting on basically what, some of the risks could be when it comes to transitioning literal kids. I learned that I was wrong about a bunch of other things, right? So for instance, it is a lie that puberty blockers are reversible. In some cases, they are not, and they can cause irreparable harm. And look, you might think, okay, but you got to do a balancing act. And if a child or if
is Jesse Single legit, guys? I don't even know, because I can't tell if Jesse Single is another like grifter who lost their job, maybe due to legitimate reasons, and then became like a fucking anti-trans grifter, which there is a lot of. I would say no. No, in terms of what?
A teenager has severe gender dysphoria, and it would actually be better for that person to go on puberty blocks. Okay, I mean, we should be
well, so if this is grifting for money on all sides, okay.
Able to balance that out. But my point here is withholding the information because you don't like the information getting out there.
Like, you can start by having good intentions, but the road to hell is paved with good intentions, right? I think he's legit, but Anna's weaponizing him here. I like Jesse Single has been relevant in such a long time. Yeah. I mean he does run a successful podcast, but yeah. Did you see what Trump posted about the Obamas on Truth Social a little bit ago? No.
ain't the way to go, because that destroys any opportunity for us to act.
What's with this like fucking hippie black box golden text quotation thing? It's so cringe. Like, just give me the point already. I don't care.
Actually have a good faith debate about what we should.
This is why BreadTube died. Okay, BreadTube died because of these easy hippie editing choices. Okay,
do moving forward.
But I think the real icing on the cake here is this tweet where Anna Kasparian has decided to unilaterally declare Jesse Singal to not be a transphobe, despite, and this is what's really wild, Jesse Singal literally talking to whistleblowers at a medical facility that appear to have made some significant HIPAA violations about their patients in sharing the information that they did with Jesse Singal. And of course, you have him running around spewing all of the same transphobic nonsense that basically your average transphobe is going to be spreading. You know, the types of things about like, oh, we don't know about hormones, and oh, HRT for kids, and oh my god, it's so terrifying. Oh my goodness, they're turning all
racist as fuck. Okay. Has not been removed. Skip to 59. Oh no.
Initiated by a court order that when reporting and counting resumed, there was a massive spike occurred that favored Joe Biden.
What the fuck? No, bro, I fucking hate this timeline, bro. Oh my god, please get me out of this. Did Trump record this on his phone and he accidentally swiped? Is that what happened? I feel like it's what happened, right? Like he accidentally changed the context and he swiped. He was like recording on his phone. What? Did you see that? It was like going up and then going down. Like, bro, oh my god. Oh my god. Just get me out of here. Get me out of this country, bro. Oh, nah. We're cooked. We're cooked.
Our kid's transgender.
I'm not the best qualified to discuss the full spectrum of topics.
Is that, dude, I can't believe we're getting like a look into what the Trump see, like on what the president sees on a daily basis on Twitter. Like as he's scrolling through Twitter, he's just going through racist memes of Obama. It's just so cringe. I can't do this. It's just so cringe, dude.
Under this umbrella, so I'm limiting my analysis to very specific parts of the discussion. This is where I took a timeout, researched Jesse Singal, and actually read the article and is referencing. Singal's both a notable journalist who's written for large publications like the New York Times, and a person who many progressives and trans rights organizations have labeled a transphobe. Did I find evidence of his transphobia? Absolutely. Is the article Anna's discussing transphobic? It didn't seem so until I dug deeper. Since people call him a transphobe, let's analyze the author more closely first. There's many instances where he was accused of transphobia.
Isn't Turkey Tom apology video? Absolutely not.
Besides this article, but I'll focus on a couple. He has demonstrably lied about a teen receiving hormone therapy after a 10-minute assessment. When called out for lying about it by the teen in question on Twitter, he deleted the tweet and blamed everyone but himself for misconstruing the facts. Spreading dangerous lies and failing to take accountability for them is transphobic. In another instance, he was also accused of
I wouldn't be surprised. Okay, I don't care about transphobia, to be honest. I'm gonna be real with you. Like these points are not very strong. Okay.
In 2024, footage of at least 7 to 10 armed minorities in an apartment building hit the internet in the middle of a dispute between a terrible landlord and his tenants. The landlord was facing lawsuits for not handling bugs, repairs, and tenant complaints, and hired a PR firm that specialized in planting news stories. Shortly after, the landlord claimed the Venezuelan gang Tren de Aragua had taken over his apartment building's empty units and was extorting residents. This man had 3 buildings, and all of them had similar problems, but this was the only one that forced the landlord to come up with an excuse, because his tenants sued him. Fox News and every other right-wing outlet ran with the gang story for obvious reasons, and TYT took the bait hard.
You're watching footage from last August featuring members of the Venezuelan gang Tren de Aragua.
Dude. Oh. Thank you, TYT.
Breaking into an apartment unit in Aurora, Colorado. Now, a shooting later broke out in the building's parking lot. And there's also some video footage that shows armed men confronting a driver in the parking lot of the apartment complex. Let's put that up. But apparently, this particular apartment complex, according to some of the residents and former residents, has been riddled with all sorts of gang violence over the last year. But this incident has sparked a big debate and I believe some gaslighting about whether or not there is a problem with Venezuelan migrant gangs basically taking over apartment buildings or causing violent crimes at these apartment buildings. The mayor of Aurora, Colorado admitted that there actually is a problem with Venezuelan gangs. Aurora's interim police chief said that the gangs had not taken over one of the complexes. Now, depending on what you're hearing different things. And whether or not this is a widespread problem in Aurora, Colorado remains to be seen. Let's be clear about that. But the issue of this Venezuelan gang carrying out violent acts,
Slay, queen, slay.
and crimes in the area, there seems to be a lot of evidence of that, while the Democratic lawmakers and leaders in the state and local level want to pretend like it's not.
Like, ultimately, when it comes to hating liberals, leftists and Nazis and the commies, they come together, they make the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact, they put aside their differences, and then one side invades Poland, okay? And then they both capture Jews and kill them, all right? That's all I'm gonna say, okay? Because every single time, whenever there's a chance to shit on the Democrats, leftists and right-wingers become indistinguishable, okay? Indistinguishable. Hearts of Iron 4 reference? The Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact, like, actually happened, bro. Like, it actually happened.
Happening at all.
What I blame them for is believing the claim that these were Venezuelans with no hard proof, the fact that they ignored information about conservatives inventing the city's gang problem, and the claim that there's a gang violence problem, which is a completely different thing from a gang taking over one building. The city council admitted that the city's Venezuelan gang problem was their opinion and said that, quote, their opinions aren't up for debate, end quote. What? TYT had access to this story by 9 News because it was published the same time that this event happened. They chose to focus in on this whole Democrat politicians are gaslighting us.
You know that's true because Hassan retweets Groypers and shit. Yeah, I mean, like, a lot of the fucking, bro, leftists are spreading anti-Semitic right-wing conspiracy theories all the fucking time. I mean, we talked about the horseshoe like 50 trillion times at this point, right? The fucking horseshoe theory is a real thing because it is, right? Because it is a real thing, and it fucking whack
storyline instead of the facts, which is that this is propaganda. Is there a Tren de Agua presence in Aurora? Absolutely. Is it a massive gang violence problem that extends to multiple buildings? And did they take over this building? No, and they shouldn't have reported it in the first place. Jerinsky, the same person that dropped that quote, also accused Tren de Agua of being behind this large crowd that gathered at a local mall when the Venezuelan election results came out. Spoiler alert, they were there to celebrate the expected fall of Nicolas Maduro. You know, the guy we kidnapped from Venezuela? This feeds into Anna's narrative of being victimized by the left. It just gives her more reasons to move away. TYT took this extremely nuanced story with conflicting evidence and screamed at us about it with the most white suburban housewife energy I've ever seen.
The interim police chief said that the residents making complaints about the gang's activity have largely been migrants who live in the buildings. Why are we allowing them to be victimized by this? This is ridiculous.
Who said nothing's being done? You said yourself there's an investigation already underway.
Man, these people stink.
This is what happens when you have a 24/7 outrage machine to fill in every day. For another example of how they're not walking the walk, let's break down their 180 on the unhoused population. Jeffrey Katzenberg, the DreamWorks exec who tried and failed to get us to watch vertical TV shows on Quibi, invested $20 million in TYT via WonderCo, which Jank announced on air while claiming that they'd stay progressive and independent in their coverage. Cool. If you follow through with that, then there's no problem. Jeffrey Katzenberg's been indirectly pulling the strings, just like Bezos at the Washington Post. Here's an example. He flexed his influence in getting homelessness.
Wait, what was his last name?
If you follow through with that, then there's no problem. Jeffrey Katzenberg's been indirect.
Katzenberg? We know what kind of person he is.
Pulling the strings, just like Bezos at the Washington Post. Here's an example. He flexed his influence in getting homelessness criminalized in LA after meeting with most of the city council members in the week before the council voted. 4 of the people he met with said that he wanted to know why so many tents are on the sidewalks and what could be done to deliver additional resources. That's great, right? But 2 sources said he wanted to be helpful at first, but quickly moved towards enacting limits on where people can sleep and talking about tents down, which is eventually what happened. What happened not long after that? Anna advocated for anti-camping laws on TYT.
One of those terrible decisions is essentially doing away with anti-camping laws, right?
Anna got her butt slapped by a homeless man, I think. Like a homeless man was like sexually assaulted her, I guess. Like that counts, I think. I got my butt slapped in college, dude. I mean, it was funny, it was weird, but it's like, but the way that she talks about it is like rape. It's like so fucking weird to me. Whatever. How to solve the homeless problem. Dude, why don't people just Google? Solving homelessness requires a comprehensive approach focusing on housing-first strategies, which prioritize providing permanent housing immediately, paired with supportive services like mental health care, addiction treatment, and job training. Key solutions include building more affordable housing, expanding rental assistance vouchers, preventing evictions, and providing integrated healthcare. Probably is tied to California's housing crisis. Oh, yeah, okay. I see. It is a complicated issue. It is a complicated issue, though.
Right? Allowing people to camp out wherever they want, whenever they want. And
I think there has to be a double-pronged approach when it comes to homeless people. I think at the same time that homeless people shouldn't be like squatting right outside of restaurants or some shit, or loitering in certain places, at the same time that they should be kept away like that. At the same time, people could be treating homeless people better, interpersonally. But also, I think that homeless people do require infrastructure changes to the entire system in order to filter them out back into working members of society who are housed. I think a lot of Vietnam veterans ended up homeless, right? And a lot of people are also on heroin addiction, and other and untreated schizophrenia. Yeah. So these are all complicated shit. Also, when housing prices are too high, and there's limited housing, even building luxury apartments help. If rich people, instead of living in a house, they move to luxury apartments, you're still bringing down the housing prices, right? Yeah, I don't know. But, it's complicated. Yeah.
If we have a homeless problem in California, we have it all throughout the country, but it's particularly bad in California. And so the argument is, well, if there isn't public housing available for people.
Also, homeless shelters need great improvement, because the reason why a lot of homeless people avoid homeless shelters is because they get their shit stolen there the most. And in addition, women who are homeless is another issue entirely, because they get assaulted, right?
People, they should be allowed to camp out.
Talking about how there's sufficient housing and that unhoused people don't want to take it.
Okay, but there's also a problem right now where there is public housing available.
Well, you can't just put them in houses, right? You can't just put them in houses and then expect the problem to go away, right? Chances are they have unmedicated, untreated schizophrenia, or they suffer from PTSD, or they have substance abuse of some kind. These things need treatment. Giving them a house is not treatment. But I think that people who is willing to put in the effort to improve themselves, I think that they do deserve a fair chance. Anybody who is willing to maybe use some kind of state program to get off of substance abuse should probably also be led down a path in which they are able to acquire permanent housing of some kind, right? I think that would be a good trade-off, right? If you're willing to show that you genuinely want to get out of your situation and your good faith, then why not, right? When did homeless become unhoused? I don't know much about this issue at all. I'm going to be real. But yeah.
And individuals will say, no, I don't want to take it. I don't want to follow the rules in the public housing. And so as a result, I would rather camp out.
What the hell are you talking about? Since when is there sufficient housing for the unhoused in LA? They dropped that video in 2021. That wasn't the
LA is just completely fucked in terms of zoning, though. LA is just suburbs upon suburbs upon suburbs. That whole place is just suburb town. I'm not surprised that LA has a homelessness problem when it's all fucking suburbs, right? There's no dense housing there. There's no dense housing there. Prices are up constantly. It's only the fucking homeowners who stay in these fucking places. They're all NIMBYs.
Case in 2021.
By the way, if you own a house, you're part of the problem.
Wasn't the case in 2023 either. It damn sure ain't the case in 2026.
Just saying.
Y'all didn't provide any evidence for that claim. Where did that come from? Anna. It came from Anna. The facts disagree. And y'all are supposed to be the ones reporting the facts no matter what, regardless of popularity. Let's throw it back to how they used to cover this same issue when discussing homelessness in Las Vegas.
Homelessness continues to be a giant problem in many big cities throughout the country, and the city council in Las Vegas has decided to approach this in the worst possible way. They are essentially citing homeless individuals who sleep on the streets. The Las Vegas City Council is slated to vote on an ordinance that would make it illegal to camp or sleep on the streets in parts of the city. Drafted in September, the ordinance would make it a misdemeanor to rest, sleep, or lodge in Las Vegas's downtown district and other residential areas if shelter beds are available. Now, here's part of the problem. Most of the time, there aren't enough, actually all the time, there aren't enough shelter beds available for homeless people to find any, refuge in.
She makes the point that there aren't enough beds available and that these violations are criminalizing people unfairly. Those criminal records make future work more difficult, creating a cycle of poverty. The takeaway is clear. The Young Turks is for sale, and all these flip-flops directly contradict what Cenk was claiming to do with Wolfpack. I'm not a VC-funded network like TYT, but I have to make decisions on whether or not to sell out my audience every day. It's a simple decision. Do you value money or your reputation more? I acknowledge that it probably feels different to stare down tens of millions of dollars rather than the thousands I deal with. But is it really that different? What's the price tag on your self-respect? As promised, I want to turn to Jack Gerard, TYT's COO and occasional acting CEO during Cenk's political campaign. His LinkedIn tells a pretty clear story. He's still the acting chief operating officer, was the chief administrative officer during the union.
I'm one of these people with friends in Miami who lives in suburbs that Destiny hates, get trigger tiny. I mean, there's so many of these that you can't really go around like moral frogging about it to people unless you're ready to trigger a lot of homeowners, which is a lot of people. But ultimately, people are just not keen to give up a house. And I think one of the biggest hypocrisies is putting up a yard sign outside of your home, going like, oh, you're welcome here. LGBT welcome, black people welcome, trans people welcome, whatever, right? When you own a house. It's not like, I don't know. They're like some of the most homeless people. But it doesn't really matter. Whatever, man. The housing crisis is complicated, okay?
Organization drama.
Whatever.
And came to TYT after running Kaiser Permanente as their executive director of national product management.
It's
In
not
case
important.
none of that landed for you. Kaiser Permanente is a healthcare corporation. His job as executive director was to manage national medical insurance products valued at over $1.4 billion, according to his own job description. When we talked about the union busting firms TYT hired, when we talk about the funding round they completed with Katzenberg's VC group, the exploitation and termination of employees, he's an integral part of the story. I wasn't in any of their meetings.
The Americans move to cute suburbs and hate living in cities because they want to avoid black people. Whoa, we don't call them black people anymore, okay? That's offensive. We say high crime, okay? Say it with me, high crime and gangs, okay? Don't lay it on so thick, okay? High crime, all right?
But it's not a stretch.
That's how my mom says it.
To lay the company's shift towards the right at his feet too. It made business sense. And his
My parents own a house. I've had arguments with them before about the housing crisis.
specialty as a healthcare exec was making money at the expense of ethics and morals. My last point.
They keep on trying to convince me. To save up to buy a house. I'm like, no.
About the TYT squad is about their partnership with Polymarket, the crypto betting platform where you can bet on real life events like political campaigns. I don't think I need to explain why that's not a good look for a progressive organization. It's funded by billionaire Peter Thiel, the venture capitalist who co-founded PayPal and backed Facebook. He founded a hedge fund and Palantir, a big data analysis company.
I got no love for Peter Thiel. He has
They say basketball people around here. Okay.
done massive damage to this country. He backed Donald Trump 100%. He backed the lunatics, JD Vance and Blake Masters, just disgusting people who spread hatred and fear and lies in this country. So don't mistake what I'm saying for as any defense of Peter Thiel. Live from the Polymarket Studios. What is this? It's hilarious. I love it. I think it's a perfect sponsor for us.
This partnership renamed their crowdfunded, independent Studio of the People to Polymarket Studios. That's like when the Heats Arena got renamed for FTX. I want to sit in on the crypto corporate partnership section of future economics classes. That shit's going to be hilarious. Regardless of how often you claim your content won't be compromised by these massive corporate sponsorships, it simply isn't true.
When you see like Anna's continued shift.
My house has doubled in value in like 2 years. Yeah, that's profiting off of the housing crisis. That's what it is. People who already own houses get to profit off of the housing crisis. But for every cent that is doubled in your house price, whatever, that you can then just sell later as like a solid asset, that is money you're taking away, okay? Indirectly taking away from poor people, okay?
Towards being willing to hear the right-wing, angles of scapegoating migrants, scapegoating people of color. And you hear some of Cenk's things about, oh, let's meet them in the middle. Let's listen to these people. These people are reasonable. Oh, there's Jimmy, there's Ben Glebe. Yeah, I know I disagree with them, but let's give them the benefit of the doubt. That benefit of the doubt was not given to in my strong leftist opinion, the most important people who were there, the workers, the staff, the ones who stayed after the hosts, the ones who came in before the hosts, the ones who would sacrifice their social lives, their professional and financial sort of prospects because they believed in the mission.
It's like a politician accepting money from endless corporations and trying to tell us those companies donated for years and got nothing in return. We've laid out some of the right-wing views and exploitative practices already, but even if it's only advertising, that's still unacceptable. You can't fundraise from viewers, claim they're your bosses on your site, and then pull a Facebook. I mean, it's a free country. You can. You just can't call yourselves progressives after doing so.
Just because it's not popular or not polling well doesn't mean you don't fight for it. After the 2024 election, when Trump won, the idea from Cenk and Anna was like, okay, listen, the right wingers have a point. Tucker Carlson, he's a populist. He's against wars. I think he's going to convince the right wing that they're going to be against wars. And you know what? I want to do a speaking tour. I want to talk to the populist right. I want to talk to the Tucker Carlsons. I want to talk to the Charlie Kirks and Anna Kasparian. I want to talk to the Ben Shapiros. And Cenk specifically said, the problem with leftists is that you just can't have a beer with them. Charlie Kirk, I can have a beer with, and we can agree and disagree. And I would, paraphrase, Cenk could say, I believe, I believe people of color should have rights. And Charlie Kirk can go, shut up, Turk. Shut up, you greasy Turk. I don't care. Martin Luther King Jr. was, a menace to society. At the end of the day, Cenk can go have a beer with that. I'm like, no.
At least Anna's more progressive than Pearl still. That's like saying Mussolini is better than Hitler because Mussolini at least didn't conduct the Holocaust. Like, at that point, it's like, what's the use of even comparing at this point?
I can have there's a difference between my best friends from high school and their parents who maybe have voted Republican most of the time, but I can have a conversation with them and they're not disrespecting my race or my family or my
house has not doubled. It's maybe gained like 150K in value in the last 8 years, but the mortgage is the same as renting. No, I mean, it's just going to continue rising. Yeah, and rent prices are going to continue to go up pretty bad.
Gender identity, because I've grown up with their kid. Right. And they can have some reasonable points. And frankly, because of me, they stopped watching as much Fox News. They started to, align.
If I was ever in charge of the IRS, the first thing I'm going after are homeowners, okay? I see you fucking homeowners out there, all right? Property taxes. I'm going to account for inflation. I'm going to count every year based off of property taxes. I'm going to make fucking... In California, Proposition 13 dictates that the assessed value is based on the acquisition price, please. With annual increases capped at 2%, please. Rather than the current market value, please. Oh! I would raise it according to the market value, and I'm going to make you feel pain.
And with some Democrats, there's a difference between that kind of discourse and people whose professional jobs it is, the Charlie Kirks, the Ben Shapiros, the Tucker Carlsons, the professional jobs it is to distort.
I get that running an indie news network is hard, and you got to chase the bag to an extent. I'm on a much smaller scale, and I have sponsors, including political ones. That's how I'm able to interview politicians on the issues I care about. I used to need those sponsors just to survive financially. However, I've never let that funding compromise my brand or my morals. My audience would absolutely...
I don't care anymore. Cool. So basically, TYT sucks, right? Good memes. Rent might go down, but that will be a bad thing rather than a good thing. That's deep. Why is the housing crisis a thing? I'm pretty sure it's just because of zoning laws. The housing crisis exists. Oh, no, not just zoning laws. It exists due to a severe long-term imbalance between supply and demand because it's too hard to build houses as well. New home construction has not kept up with population growth and demand, correct? Particularly from millennials, creating a persistent shortage. Okay. Increased prices for materials, labor shortages, and complex permitting processes make building new affordable units difficult. Yep. Restrictive land use policies often limit the development of higher... Yeah, there's a lot of bureaucracy to go through. Just build more houses, Fivehead. Ezra Klein's book is all about it. Abundance, yeah. The housing inventory goes up, the housing market will stabilize. Also, don't companies own houses to rent it out and get profit regularly, like a subscription? I don't know. Oh, it doesn't even from the project, but it benefits people to have homes. I don't like people who say that they have homes and then I don't like people who say they have houses and say that they're poor. Like, something does not match up here. You can just simply sell your place for a very large amount of money. Like, go find someone willing to buy it. Like, it just confuses me whenever somebody says, oh yeah, I own a house and I'm impoverished. Like, what do you mean? Just sell your house. What the fuck? I don't like people who say they're homeless, but they live with their parents. Well, I mean, we're not counting that, obviously, right? That supply is not less than demand. Not sure if the property expert he called is authentic or not. I have no idea. Building more houses requires zoning laws to be changed. Well, they need to be changed. The areas where there's work and services are the same ones with zoning laws. Yeah, but zoning laws are like essentially everywhere at this point. It's hard to make the argument that supply is not less than demand because if the price dropped, the demand would definitely go up. People say they are poor but have all their money in the market. Most people aren't using their house as a bartering chip. They look at it as a home. If they sell, then they still need to buy a home of some sort. No, what? If you sell, just rent. What the hell? It's like me saying I have all this gold jewelry from my grandmother, but I can't pay my Foodshop sub. Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Bro, it's always some motherfucker holding on to some shit that you really don't need to hold on. It's like, what do you really need that gold-plated platinum katana? Like is that really that necessity? Like that much of a necessity? Do you really need like these 5 extra rooms and 1 extra bedroom and 2 extra bathrooms? Like what the fuck? Like what? Do you really though? Do you really though? Like, what do you mean? But you then need to pay rent. Yeah, that's fine. I hate the okay. Do you know why people complain about rent? It's because rent is market adjusted. Rent is actually up to date with the market. But do you know what's not market adjusted? Houses. These things are out of the economic circulation for decades at a time. All right? Man, fuck that. What? You're gonna keep that out of the economic zone for that long? Also, just pulling shit out of my ass right now. I also hate the rhetoric that renting means that you're not building towards owning a house. When you move to a new location, what are you doing there? You're working, aren't you? You're working, you're providing business to that area. You're not building up to owning a house. But flexibility is worth money. Flexibility is worth greens, okay? If you don't have a job and are only getting like 1,700 a month to live on. Also, not only that, like the design of these suburbs, my God, like why do you think traffic is so bad down the 101? Why is traffic so bad in California? It's like, bro, do you know how many suburbs there are up in this bitch? You're asking us why is traffic bad? You're saying why? Guys, we just need to build 1 more lane. We just need to build 1 more lane. We need to build 2 more lanes. Okay, more lanes, the better. If we just have more lanes, then finally we will no longer have traffic jams. Wow, 500 IQ. Yes, amazing. Oh my God. About your investments, what do you mean? More cars, more lanes, more parks, more cars, more lanes, more parks. Yeah. City Skylines reference? City Skylines is an IRL reference. What are you talking about? City Skylines is a reference to real life. You need another parking lot? You don't understand, okay? The Wendy's parking lot is great for our cultural values. 90% of NIMBYs give up and move out of the suburbs right before building just enough lanes. People be like, you don't understand. I need the 2 extra bathrooms and 3 extra bedrooms if I'm going to have kids, okay? Me raising a kid, that's not possible unless I have 2 extra bathrooms and 3 extra bedrooms. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? What are you saying? What are you saying? Have you gone crazy? To Anchorage? Bro, they pay you to live in Alaska. Please, just live in Alaska. You need to find land developers who want to take the risk of rezoning and building. You know what? I am glad, okay? I am glad that that we are building denser housing here, okay? I am happy about that.